Welcome to Wine Soundtrack Australia. Listen to the passion with which producers narrate their winery and their world.
In 30 ounces, discover their stories, personalities and passions.
Hello listeners and friends of your Wine Soundtrack. My name is Priscilla Hennicam and I'm here with Elena Brooks from Dandelion Vineyards. How are you today? Good. So, would you like to tell us where you're located?
Right, so we are in Australia, South Australia, and then right down south from Adelaide in McLaren, Vale, right next to the part of the Gulf of St. Vincent.
So amazing property. Oh my God, they have such a nice views here, guys. Elena, would you like to tell us, you're not just here, you produce wines from different regions, right?
Yes, we have a family vineyards, we have our own, and then we lease some vineyards further north into Barossa, Eden Valley. We've got some friends in Adelaide Hills that we buy some Adelaide Hills varieties like Chardonnay and Pinot Noir and Sauvignon Blanc, and then in McLaren Vale, our own vineyard with Shiraz and Grenache as well.
Why is that? Why is the concept to get wines from the different regions?
It's definitely been a very important concept that as a young winemaker in Australia quite soon became to realize. I come from Bulgaria, so a European country, a very, very much a winemaking heritage country. And even there, this concept of growing the right varieties in the right regions is very important. And you only have to look into France and Italy to realize how important it is for the quality of the wine you make. So my generations, I've been making wine here in Australia for quite a while now, so it's not a new thing, definitely. It's been about 20-something years in the making, but this new approach of making the varieties from the right regions has led us to have world-quality wines. We definitely now have Rieslings to stand right next to the German Rieslings. So we know now that you've got Tasmania, Eden Valley, Clare Valley, Mount Barker that are absolutely brilliant for that variety. And they're the ones that we comfortably can take to the world and compare and teach people about Australian wine and how amazing Riesling is here. So this is just one of the varieties as an example of how it goes with its region. Another one being here in McLaren Vale. McLaren Vale has definitely come on the forefront of using Mediterranean varieties. So Grenache is very much, it's the place to be. Touriga, so I've started making Touriga for the last kind of 7-8 years to the point where we've planted another 5 acres of it. Touriga is absolutely superb here, and quite often looking at some of the hills around here, you can picture yourselves being on those beautiful hills around in Portugal too. So we don't have the rivers, but the landscape is similar, and also that influence, the ocean influence too, that we're so close to the water. And I mean, from here you can look. You can see the water itself, even the beach.
So true. How many hectares do you have here?
Right here, we're sitting on 24 hectares or 60 acres. But literally 5 minutes down the road, we've got another family vineyard. So there, I've got another, I want to say 15 acres. It might be a little bit more. And then just over the hills, we've got my father-in-law's vineyard with Cabernet. So that's another 5 acres too. So this is kind of the immediate family here.
And it's so close to the breezes from the ocean. So what's influencing in the vineyards?
McLaren Vale is quite heavily influenced by the big body of water that we have. And the point of difference is that it keeps the night and the day temperature quite close to each other, so that there aren't big differences between the night and the day that you might see in the Barossa, which is a much more inland region, even if it's not too much, but it is more inland than McLaren Vale. So what happens is that you've got just this softer ripening periods. the other reason why it's good is that the breezes that we get from the water during the day help us controlling the disease pressure that we might have. So climatically, it is one of the best regions to have it as an organic or biodynamic viticulture or any farming, because the climate is much more forgiving and we don't have that disease pressure. And for that reason, McLaren Vale is one of the biggest wine regions that are sustainable wine regions. And sustainability doesn't have to mean necessarily biodynamics, but it's part of the organic biodynamic, but it's also this recycling viticulture that we have. So quite often the seeds and the skins from the winery, from the ferments, would go into the farmers, where they'll feed them to cows and or they will get recycled into compost, and they'll be brought back then into the vineyard. So this is beautiful, and this is just a tiny little simple example of how what McLaren Vale does as a region. Very important. We do see our vineyard is second year biodynamic in conversion. So next year we get certification, which is, I'm not I'm not obsessed with biodynamics as such, but what I've always said, that this is my house and I want it to be a clean house. So if this is where I am, if this is where our customers and the people that love our wines come and see us and try our wines, I want it to be a clean house. So biodynamics, but not only that, we also have a vegetable garden that will feed the cellar door, and it's what we eat every day. So it's kind of choice. It's definitely a lifestyle choice.
It's part of your what do you believe, right?
It definitely is. It's that sustainability. It is, walking in the vineyard, you could see a lot of weeds, and biodynamic vineyard is always a very messy vineyard. And it's probably, my life is a very similar thing. It's a clean life, but God, it's messy.
So, Elena, what type of wine? You have so many different grapes, yes? Would you like to share with us?
Yes. I call myself a nerd. I'm definitely a wine nerd. I do drink, but I don't drink a lot. When I drink, I always make a point of learning something from it. So it becomes quite torturous, because it's every time you're trying for something new. And quite often, I think with my husband as well, who he has spent his entire life in wine as well. We're very particular of what we drink, and probably 70% of what we have is something new or something different or something that we can learn something from. I love that. I love when wine can do that, and considering the amount of producers in wine regions and varieties there are, you could really have fun with a lot of wines. So I make quite a lot of different wines, from quite a lot of different varieties. So let's start. So I got Sauvignon Blanc, Riesling, Chardonnay, Pinot Grigio, Roussanne. Then we've got Grenache, Pinot Noir, Touriga Tempranillo, Shiraz Cabernet, Petit Syrah. Am I missing anything? And out of them, you end up having different blends as well, or different styles that might be representing that particular region better. So I also work in Spain with some varieties there too, and I love that kind of ability to bring and learn and change and move forward. And I used to say to my husband that at a very young age I had accomplished so much in winemaking. I said to him, I'm afraid that one day people just won't care what I do. They won't really like what I do. And he says to me, the mere fact that you think so much about the wines and you're always out there and taste and talk and think and change, and every vintage something else would be added to or changed or made to make a wine more exciting. I said, don't worry about it. You'll definitely be relevant, which is, I suppose, something we think about as winemakers. But at the end of the day, what we do as winemakers is entertainment. And I say to people, we're not in the wine industry, we're in the entertainment industry. So what we want out of a glass of wine is definitely entertainment in a glass. You want something to engage you from the moment that you smell it or see it, even as a bottle, or then into the glass, and then carry you through the night and entertain you through the night. And have a smile at the end. So
it's so beautiful to see your passion about the wines. So, so tell us, do you export a lot of your wines as well, or you mainly Australia, mainly domestic market?
With Dandelion Vineyards, we actually export 60% of what we make. We have a great market support in countries like Sweden and England, in Bulgaria as well, America, Canada. We're through a few countries through Asia. We're not in China at all, not a single bottle.
Really?
Yeah, it's quite strange, isn't it?
Yeah.
But no, not a single bottle, which I suppose in this day and time is not a bad thing. But it is, the world has really embraced what we're trying to do. And I think the success was because Dandelion presented this alternative Australian style to the big oaky and rich Shirazes, for example, or wines. This is so much more European. My general style of winemaking is aromatics and acidity in whites, and aromatics, acid, and tannins in reds. So oak is not a dominant feature at all. It's just a supporting feature. And these are the wines I've been making for the last 20 years. So it's not a new thing for me. It's very much wines that have expression of variety and region. My husband, as a wine judge over so many years, has always said to me, the greatest wines of the world, you actually know what they are and where they come from. So it's not worthwhile me making something that a customer would be confused. Like, you need to be comfortable with the wine, you need to be comfortable with what it is and where it comes from, if you are to make a great wine.
Yeah.
Hopefully one day I will.
You make beautiful wines. Do you have any first memory with your wines you'd like to share with us? When you were young or teenager, or maybe before? When was your first time you actually drink wines?
Well, apparently when I was one. No, it's you see, for me that's a kind of like a tricky question, because I grew up my entire life in a winery. My mom was marketing PR in a winery in Bulgaria, so ever since I was 2, I was running around barrels. And through complete, I suppose, through completely just being there is how I've ended up being a winemaker. So having a family that is in wine, or I should say the girls are in wine, the boys are in Air Force. So my dad was a fighter pilot, my brother was with NATO in the Air Force. So it's a funny structure how the girls have ended up in wine. And so I go back really, really young. I mean, there was a beautiful sparkling wine in Bulgaria with only about 6% alcohol, which was packed with herbs, with lots of different herbs, and had a touch of residual sugar, and it was absolutely delicious. So we were allowed a little bit at events, whether it's birthday parties or Christmas or New Year's. So we were always allowed as kids to have a little bit of that. What else? There was the wine that best sits in my memories of wanting to be a winemaker was a fortified wine from the 50s. That so when I suppose it would have been 30 years of age when I tried it first, and my mom used to keep a bottle of it in the fridge, and again just use for special events. And I thought, as a 5-year-old, I thought if I can learn how to make that for life, I think I'd be quite okay. I'll be okay in life if I can have a constant supply of that in my life. And you know, that's the best way of doing it. You just learn how to make it yourself, and then you set yourself up for life. So yes, wine has been a part of my life ever since I can remember it. And I think I've always found it easy for that reason, because you end up growing with it, so suddenly it becomes part of your entire you.
So nice to hear your story, Elena. It's so beautiful to know you pretty much involved with wine since you were young. It's a beautiful story, really. I'm drinking here with Elena like a nice glass of Pinot Noir. So I'd like to ask you, that is your favorite variety?
Oh, that's a trick one, because talking about being a nerd, I'm a great believer in wines for special times. So I'll drink everything at the right time. So I'm very particular about it. It's funny with age, I believe I've become a bit of an obsessive compulsive disorder kind of a person. So I'm so particular when I drink what. So we're having the Pinot Noir right now because it's kind of this afternoon. It's 2 o'clock here, 2:30 in the afternoon. The weather is absolutely gorgeous, mild, not you know, the birds, the parrots outside singing. It's just perfect Pinot Noir weather, isn't it? It's not too hot, it's not too cold, and it's just right.
So true. That's actually a beautiful moment for drinking some Pinot Noir. But do you have any favorite variety then?
I quite enjoy an Eden Valley Riesling. I think Eden Valley Riesling is one of these variety and regions that is transcendent of time. Many years ago, when I started making it with no experience in making Riesling, what I decided to do is make it as pure as possible, no winemaking influence whatsoever, get it in bottle as quickly as possible, and then present it to the people. And it was pretty much just capturing the variety and the region and nothing more. And I love how Riesling can reward you to no end when you respect it like that. But also, Eden Valley and Riesling it's one of definitely the most charming regions for Riesling. It is, you can taste it. The inspiration to make that wine and the way I make it came from tastings of Eden Valley Rieslings from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and the 2000s. And it's a region that has been making Riesling for more than 100 years. The vineyard I work with is 112 years of age. So it has the heritage of making amazing wines. It just needed me to kind of step back and say, all right, we will just make it as simple as possible. And now it's literally, and the wine I'm talking about is the Wonderland that we make from Eden Valley, and it's definitely a wine that we take around the world and share with winemaking friends and kind of go like, look what Australia can make.
Like your son, right?
It is.
So nice to hear that, because you have such old vines in your hands, but you were quite a younger winemaker. So it's nice that nice blend between old vines and younger winemaker. So how do you talk about a little bit like you like wines for a long time, and probably you have any wine nerd, so you probably have like a cellar, right? If you have a cellar, what's the most expensive wine do you have in your cellar?
Definitely. So I'm trying to think of which Domaine de la Romanée Conti we have. We definitely have Grenache in the cellar at the moment, but I'm thinking could be also Richebourg there. So a 90 in the 90s. So I try not to look at that part of the cellar too often. But yeah, that'll be them. Yeah, definitely. It's my husband and I started a very dangerous habit of buying each other a bottle of DRC every now and then. A very dangerous habit.
Wow.
It's terrible. I mean, it's embarrassing. I'm sorry.
That's such a good thing. If you need some company to help you to drink, feel free to invite us.
It is definitely so. That is the one wine my husband insists on sharing with a big group of people. I could never sit down and drink a bottle by myself. I'm not allowed to.
So, I'd like to ask you something completely different now. And just imagine, so 60% of your wines going overseas, right? Just imagine someone going overseas, famous person, VIP, some magazine take a picture and they actually have a Dandelion Vineyards on the table. And then that will be in the magazine, but who would you like to see at the magazine with that bottle?
Well, let's see. I wouldn't mind being, and this is where politics becomes a bit controversial, but I wouldn't mind being people you want to sit and talk to, right? So let's see, who would that be? Would definitely be Melinda Gates, for example, and it's only because she's been in the news recently as well. So I'd love to sit down and have a conversation with her. So again, this is, it's a bit selfish. It's more so, okay, well, if they're drinking that, I must talk to them. Who else? That would be. I mean, it would be great to talk to, I suppose, some of the new kind of and new age kind of changing climate kind of people as well, because I'd like to hear. There's an amazing doctor here in Dr. Swan, who does all the health kind of updates through the entire COVID kind of pandemic and everything. I'd love to sit down and talk to him. So it's more selfish reasons, really.
Elena, every vintage has different story.
Yes, they do.
So, how was compared 2020 2021 for McLaren Vale?
So 2008,
2020. How was it 2020 to 2021 in McLaren Vale?
Well, on vintage conditions, just vintage conditions without emotional attachment to them, 20 was a lovely quality, an excellent quality. And McLaren Vale, it's one of these regions that every year it's good, and every now and then it's incredible. But no matter what, every year it's good. And that's why it's so easy to make wine here. You don't have these ups and downs like some other regions have. Like, for example, Eden Valley is completely up and down as such because it's such a cool climate. And people don't realize that even if it's part and right next to the Barossa, it's actually a cool climate region. And the changes there from year to year are dramatic. Whereas McLaren Vale is quite gentle in that aspect. 20 was quite low in volume. So we ended up with tiny little berries, a lot of concentration, so beautiful wines. However, then it falls into 21, which we probably came to about average volumes, but the quality was exceptional. And the reason for that was that La Nina kind of weather event that was happening where Australia ended up finally getting some water. And that cooler climate through the ripening season. I believe we got only 4 days above 40 degrees, whereas we'll get, good 2 weeks at least over summer, whereas this year it was very, very restrained. It was just perfect, cooler nights, so amazing for acid retention in the grapes. So quality is absolutely exceptional. The color is the most extraordinary of reds and purples. The tannin structure is just so deliciously kind of engaging, and the acidities are natural. It was the easiest vintage to make, yet the best vintage as well. So it was this kind of winemakers. I like it when you're around the vineyards and the wineries and you see the winemaker smiling and just singing along and just happy in general, because we didn't really have to do that much this year. It's great when the wine makes itself, and I'm a great believer in that.
Can't wait to start to try the old 2021 actually from South Australia, because it has been a great year for all the regions around here. So I have a question. Do you always seems to be little? Your idea always was to be winemaker?
No, I would have liked to be an architect. I really wanted to be a pilot, just like my dad. Got told that girls couldn't get into flight school when I was little. No, there were definitely. I'm one of these people that thinks I can do everything. It's really embarrassing. But wine was definitely there. I made my first wine when I was about 15. We stole some grapes from the local winery, from the vineyards in buckets, and used my mom's pantyhoses to use them as a filtration device. Used her juicer to get the juice out. Emptied out her fridge and fermented the Chardonnay in her fridge properly. I had help from the winemakers in the winery, but it was such an exciting way. And then I love art, and I think a lot of us dabble kind of a thing in painting and art. And what I loved about winemaking is that you created it and you appreciated it. It's a form of art that is exceptional. It suits me so well because it's not immediate, but you can have an input in the wine in it through its life, and then finally put it in a bottle. So it's almost like putting it into a gallery, and everyone can see it and try it and judge it. Wine has been probably on the radar. Probably from the moment I was 5 and tried, that wine, but not really as a career on the radar since I was 15. Yeah, it's probably, I love traveling, and I come from Bulgaria. I've ended up in Australia. I work in Spain as well. I end up in the most weird places, like some small towns in Idaho, or the weirdest places that you would never go to in your life. And my winemaking degree takes me there. So I'm trying to encourage my 8-year-old son to become a winemaker, and he can be the first winemaker on Mars. So I'd love him because he loves microbiology. I said, fine, well, you can go to Mars with the next, space mission, and you can plant some vineyard, vines there, and you can be the first winemaker there. So he's considering it.
That's good. So your first wine was when you were 15 years old. That's right. Oh my God. So did you try that?
Yes, we did. So I ended up making only about 3 bottles. And it was because it wasn't commercially bottled. It would only lasted about 5 years in the cellar, down in our cellar. So I think we tried, the first couple of bottles definitely were drunk quite quickly. And then the last bottle was tried about 5 years later. I was still holding really well. But the grapes came from the northern part of Bulgaria, where it's excellent for Chardonnay. It's one of them. It's cool. It's incredibly cool. Red grapes usually don't ripen there, so it's very much a wide variety region. So therefore, they were good.
So fascinating story. Really love it. So, question: have you ever paired white wine with meat and meat with they open the fish with red wine?
I do actually have a red wine that you can pair with fish. I do make a Shiraz fermented with Riesling skins. And that is one wine that I definitely recommend for fish and chicken kind of meats, because it's so aromatic, the acidity is so fresh, and it's quite engaging wine. It's perfect, and it's perfect for any kind of fish, from grilled all the way to stew, so it's excellent for that. Whereas white wine with mead is also easy, because there's definitely those kind of bigger Roussanne, Massan blends from France, and we've got some Viogniers here, or Chardonnays even, that can handle a bit of chicken, a bit of fish, but also duck. I suppose some of the duck meats too. My husband Zao always says that he's he's not a fan of the food and wine matching unless it's Chablis with oysters, Pinot Noir with duck. And so there's a couple of those ones that you literally can't go wrong, and no matter what, it is just the thing to do.
Yeah.
And Chablis and oysters, I just can't picture any other way of having oysters or anything else to have with Chablis. It's just spectacular. But saying that everything else it really depends on the cuisines. I mean, how could you compare a Vietnamese cuisine to an Italian cuisine? Or so you could really definitely mix and match. And the other thing that I find with whites, I'm quite sensitive to phenolics. Phenolics are that kind of bitterness on the back palate as such. And I don't know whether, I discovered it quite early in my winemaking career that phenolics were really tripping my palate. So I can't have really, really heavy whites, for example. It's just, it's definitely this kind of natural reaction to it. And therefore I end up with whites that are quite pure and quite precise on the palate as such. And those ones can definitely then lead you, with those wines you can get with some more spices. So for me it's more spices than at the point of food instead of the meat itself.
That's good. So, good answer. But would you like to know how many bottles of wine you needed to see you actually drunk?
Half a bottle?
Half a bottle.
Yes.
Not much.
I like to call myself a cheap drunk, and not only not because I drink cheap wine, it's because it doesn't take a lot. I don't know. It's really bizarre. It is. I only need an hour tasting, and I'm done.
Seriously? Just a half a bottle? You're right with that?
At a full bottle of rosé, for example, I'm a goner. Like a goner. You see, for that reason though, I'm one of the best people to go out for lunch, because I would be the only person at the end of the lunch that would have every single wine left in a glass on the table. And you can go, oh, I wonder what the Dujac tastes like 2 hours later. So you could always go back and try the wines again and again and see how they change. So again, I probably, this is a combination of being a bit of a nerd and a bit of a, easy drunk. So it doesn't take much at all.
And saving money for your husband as well, because you just need to buy one bottle.
We have this story we tell always to people. We ended up being in Beaune in Burgundy when I was 5 months pregnant with our second boy. And my husband always tells the story of how, being a winemaker, I'd always be in the restaurants going, all right, I want to try this wine, and then this wine. And of course they come in bottles, they don't come in glasses. And I would, being pregnant first and second, not drinking a lot, I would only have about half a glass. And he always says, as a true gentleman, he felt the must, the need to finish the bottle. So at every lunch, he would have 2.5 bottles, or almost 3 bottles, and I would only have about a glass.
That's a good deal for him. He'll love it.
And exactly, I am the best person to go out for lunch, because I don't mind a good bottle of wine, but I don't drink much of it.
So, Elena, for you, complete the sentence. A day without wine is like?
A day without wine?
The day without wine is like?
Oh, it doesn't exist.
There is possible to have a day without wine?
No, you can't. No, it's like, no, it's not a reality. It doesn't, like, no, it doesn't compute. I'm sorry. To that, no.
Before they start the vintage, or even actually the harvest or anything, do you have any ritual every year you do just for get the good luck?
I go to a health retreat. make sure I spend 1 week without alcohol, 1 week without caffeine. No, it is amazing. Vintage, I compare, and this is really terrible, but vintage I compare to a battlefield. You need to have your mind incredibly clear. You need to be feeling really good health-wise. You need to be. It's so important to be so onto it, because a day, even half a day, can make a difference. So I try to have 1 week where it's complete cleanse, and I'm not one of these people that swears by it or anything like that. I just find that it clears my mind. And then, so that has become, in the last 6 years, has become a bit of a ritual for me.
So I know you've traveled so many places, you have been so many places. It's a great story, really, to see how passionate you are with wine. But there are any other winemaking area, wine regions in the world that you would like to explore?
Well, it's been on my cards to just go and just pick grapes in Burgundy. I'd love to, and again, not make wine, just pick grapes. It's I'd love to be part of this experience where you're together with the people and you pick the grapes, and it's not almost remove myself away from making the wine, because sometimes we get too invested in it. So it's been on my cards for the last 5 or 6 years, and I've been kind of saying to my husband, is like, I really need to do it. I want to go there and just pick grapes and not think about it, not have the responsibility of making it or thinking how I should make it. Just be part of the team. I've worked in Italy a bit, in Abruzzo and in Campania, and I totally adored doing that. It was an incredible experience, and again, happened as a young winemaker. I still work in Spain. But other regions I'd like to visit, Alsace, and Moselle and some of those regions. But I'd like to just be nobody in Burgundy, for example.
Burgundy will be awesome, because it's such a great place to be and to learn and to see the grapes growing. It's so good. I have been there. I completely agree with you, and I understand that your desire. So I'd like to actually invite you to play a game with me.
Okay.
So the game is, I tell you the famous person, can be actor, can be singer, can be different people, and then you just pick your grape, and then tell me why this grape or this wine match with that person, right?
So just a variety?
Yeah, I will tell. No, just see the variety or the wine. It's up to you. If you have any wine specific of your range, or any grape or style, you maybe, or any French or anything, you match with that person and the wine, right?
Okay.
So, Madonna.
Right. Goodness me. You had to pick a difficult one. Wow. Okay, let's see. A great entertainer. So a great wine, entertaining wine for a great entertainer, right? Oh. This is difficult. The first one that comes to my mind is my Shiraz Riesling, so my Lion's Tooth. And that is that McLaren Vale Shiraz with the Riesling, because it is great entertainer. Out of all of my wines, it's my greatest. So I'll just go for that one, just to find my feet in this game, if that's all right.
Sounds good. You talking about politician, yeah? So we'll pick someone from politicians. So Donald Trump.
He doesn't drink. That's easy. He doesn't drink. It's water.
Water for him?
Or we can get him some de-alcoholized Chardonnay. Jacob's Creek 0 alcohol Chardonnay. Yellowtail.
Very cheap wine for him.
Well, he doesn't drink.
So very attractive, Angelina Jolie.
Ooh, so obviously a beautiful rosé, mainly because she does a rosé. And I've got, I won't offer her her own, of course, as Marivaux, but I would offer her my fairy tale, which is our Barossa Barossa Grenache Rosé. So that one.
That's good. I think matching with her, she's quite elegant. She's quite...
And also sophisticated. It's this particular rosé is made, it's quite a sophisticated wine. So yeah, totally.
Bill Gates.
Well, it has to be something sustainable, right? So something from my vineyard. I have this amazing blend here called Moonrise Kingdom. It is in exact proportions of what every vintage gives me. It comes from a biodynamic vineyard. It's French oak. It's elegant. It's rich. So I'll go for that. I seem to be choosing my own wines for this. Is that all right?
That's completely right. That just shows how much passion you have for your wines.
Well, also because I make so many, I am certain that we can continue this game with another 40 people.
Thank you so much, Elena. I had so much fun. I was fascinated about your story. It's amazing how you actually started in the wine industry and how with this passion you actually can tell me, you can see in your eyes. Would you like please to remind us how to reach your cellar door? Because we open the cellar door very, very soon, right? And your website as well, just to remind us that your website, how the people can access your website.
Right, so website is www.dandelionvineyards.com.au, and it does have quite a bit in it. It's definitely, being a bit of a nerd, we try to throw at it a lot, whether it's technical things or just different things. And also, because we do travel around the world, there's often that whether there's Zoom tastings or whether there's real tastings, really. I really hope to be able to get on a plane soon. But all that information is there, so it would be great if people get onto that and see what's happening. And then cellar door, everyone is more than welcome here in McLaren Vale once people are allowed to come in, because for some reason we're not even letting Australians in. And it's cellar door would be, we are literally starting the build next week or so, in the next couple of weeks. So it would be a great experience, again, to try to navigate through some of the wines, but also taste. I always say, in order to understand the wines that we make, it's really great to come here and eat what we eat and drink the way we drink. And then people get it. It's such a unique place and a unique... it's such a lovely fusion of old and new. It's a lovely fusion of peasant food and fancy food. It's a lovely fusion between the sea and the land. And then people can really truly understand the wines we make and why we make them that way.
Yeah, that's so good. Thank you so much, Elena, for everything. It's absolutely nice to be here with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to a new episode of Wine Soundtrack Australia. For details and updates, visit our website, winesoundtrack.com.